Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we want to go over how to complete a tax return and take it through the bank product option and creating an invoice. So let's get started. I've already opened a tax return in TaxProLink that is just a test return. And let's start with edit here. And we'll move pretty quickly. I have already created the return, so we're not going to actually go through creating a return, but actually finish and take you to the tax summary page, which will allow us to get to the option for our bank product today. So you'll click on the tax summary page. This is where you'll come up to. And refund options, so direct deposit, split refund into multiple accounts, or receive a paper check. You want to do a receive a paper check if you are doing a bank product, just because you're going to actually put in what you're looking for if a check or an E1 card or another option for disbursement. So here, just check or receive a paper check. These options are available if you're actually just e-filing a tax return and collecting cash payments. So say return. Do you want to make any estimated tax payments? No. We've already finished the state tax return, so we don't need to revisit the return at this point. We're checking this box to basically say that since we have already checked this box here for the return, if we unchecked it, then we wouldn't be filing this tax return. So we do want to check it. This check box is that you have reviewed the information and it is correct and complete. This is an important page. If you especially don't check this box as mark the return as reviewed, then it will not give you the option to e-file. So we want to make sure we do read this page. Are you ready to mark this return completed? Yes. File this return as electronically. That has to be the case for a bank product. Are you ready to mark this return as reviewed? Yes, you have to change that option. Save and continue here. It's going to bring you back to the manage return page. The first thing we want to do here is get the signature. So all these forms will be signed. We're simply going to start and sign the return. Now, this is a head of household tax return, so there's only one taxpayer on it. If this was also a married filing joint return, you would have a start signature for the spouse as well. We'll save the signature. Signature has been applied to all the forms. We will go ahead and close the screen now. We'll scroll down to the client payment options here. Since this is the first time you are choosing the client payment option, there isn't an invoice here. So if there isn't an invoice here, you have to add an invoice. If there is already an invoice here created, then you would edit that invoice and then make the changes. So let's add that invoice right now. We'll scroll down. Again, payment options. Non-banking would be cash. So clients paying you via credit card, cash, or a check. But we are interested in our banking option here. So we're going to click banking. We will hit continue here. The next page that comes, this is where you would actually check that what kind of a product do you want? Does your client want just a refund transfer only product, which is a RT, or do they also want to apply for the advance? And let's apply for the advance. So this client has $11,000 refund. So let's see if the bank will give him a $1,200 advance. Just so you can see, if you're doing the RT, you have the option of direct deposit, you have the Walmart direct to cash, and then the state RT. But if you do apply for the advance, your only two options are check and E1 card. So just keep that in mind. If your client does want a direct deposit, they won't be able to do the advance. So let's get a check in the office. Now we come to the state refund transfer, SRT. This is a very important checkbox. This client is getting almost $3,000 from the state, so let's send him through a refund transfer. It does a couple of things. One, it brings the checks to the office, and some clients like that. Second is that you are creating an insurance policy for your fees. And just in case the federal return doesn't pay, the state refund will come through and it will pay your tax fees. So we will check that box. And these are the military questions. If you're a taxpayer or the spouse is active military, then you would say yes to those options, but our client is not. Do you want to e-file this return return now? Yes. This is where the bank application is going to be filled out. So taxpayer's identification number. We will take that taxpayer ID type, driver's license, or you have multiple options of what you want to pick, but your most common option will be the driver's license or the state ID. Issue date is not a necessary or a mandatory box. Expiration is. Some states have them and some states don't. So we're just going to pick a January 31st. And for the state ID, we'll go with the Michigan ID. These are some of the verification questions for the advance. So taxpayer's email. Does the taxpayer allow for notifications? Taxpayer's security question. So let's go with the mother's maiden name. Their preference of language, so English or Spanish. Does the taxpayer agree to provide EPS with prior year experience and funding ratio? This is going to be this is how the banks are making their decision. So let's ask the client if how fast did they receive their refund last year? So let's say yes. And taxpayer prior funding experience. This is taxpayers information. So did the taxpayer actually have any experience last year? So did they actually file a tax return? If they didn't file a tax return, then you would just simply say no. Delinquent means that they owed somebody. Partial funding means that it was only partially funded and the whole refund didn't come through. Fully funded would be the best option, and the bank would love to take a chance on that client. Tax year prior year funding ratio. This is, again, if it's fully funded, it would be 100%. Was the return carried forward from last year? That would be a no. And the application date is already here. You do have to open all these forms and review them with the client. So let's start with the advanced loan agreement. Now, again, if they didn't have the advanced, that agreement will not be there. So you will review that with the client. A copy would be printed and given to the client. So simply close that, and you have to go through each one. Again, I'm just clicking them to open it, but you do have to review them with your client. So please make sure that you do. You'll see the signatures are on the return. All right, now taxpayer has signed the consent. Yes, taxpayer has signed the consent to disclose. Yes, product application form and fee disclosure has been reviewed and signed. Yes, and the fee disclosure over 400. Anytime your fees are over 400 bucks, you have to get that disclosure signed. So we'll save and continue here. We come to the e-file transmission. So federal e-file 1040, and we're going to state piggyback the e-file. So Michigan will be the piggyback return, and you will transmit. If you just wanted to e-file the state by itself, then you would click that option for a state only. But again, there wouldn't be a bank product with that. So we are going to piggyback this return. And at this point, you can add to queue. So the tax preparers who won't have the option for transmit, that is what they would do, or transmit now, and this return would be ready to go to the IRS. So let's transmit the return now. And that is how you send the return up for e-filing. Now, once you come back, you'll see that the edit option is now grayed out. The return is locked, and it will stay locked now. Nobody will be able to go in there and make changes to the return. The only option you have is to see the view inputs. So you'll be able to go through that information here, but you will not be able to make any changes to this return. Well, that is what we have for you today. I hope you had a good time, and this video will make sure you review this video a few times just to make sure, and send it to all your tax preparers so that way they have the ability to see and complete a tax return. And we wish you a good tax season, and let's have a good time. If you guys have any questions, 800-746-8901. All right, everybody out, and keep looking out for more videos to come.